how did you deal whenever there were tough times, like, because you had so much of like recording yourself, like setting, you know, like kind of like living under your own recording schedule and stuff like that. Were there days off, like when you would just have your show from home, right? Was there days where you would just like take off? What was that shoot schedule like when you were?
When I was doing the web show
Yeah.
at home? Well, I mean, it was, so there wasn't really sort of podcasting yet, wasn't really a thing really, right? So we built the studio and it would basically just stream to my website. I mean, there was no Instagram yet. YouTube had just started. And people would come and watch it on the front page of tomgreen.com. And we actually had like a company in San Francisco that made like the video playback system, you know, so it was CDN, Content Distribution Network. It was basically, so we would upload a video to that. We weren't uploading it to YouTube and linking it, or there was no YouTube really. So it was kind of just a big sort of science experiment that I was doing with, you know, my group of friends, and you know, I had the sort of goal of trying to sort of make it a show that would become profitable, get advertisers, and maybe sell it to television, which we did a little bit of that, you know. So, you know, I was kind of pretty driven, I guess. And it's kind of what I notice now with like podcasting, which is amazing, is like, you know, the people that have these incredible businesses that they've got going, these incredible, you know, artistic visions they have for themselves, they're all kind of have that same kind of drive in them. You know, they get up in the morning, their mind is just like, how are we going to make this better today? You know, how are we going to make this awesome today? You know, so it was kind of like that. You know, we were getting up and turning on the studio every night, and I'd be inviting up, you know, rappers, and Too Short came up, and you know, Jurassic 5 and Exhibit, and then you know, you wrap up invite comedians up, and like Joe Rogan would come over, and you know, Norm Macdonald, who I became good friends with, you know, would start coming over all the time, and you know, literally like hundreds and hundreds of people would come over, and it became this kind of really fun thing to do. I wasn't doing stand-up at the time. I hadn't done stand-up in years, so I was really just doing that. And you know, it was ridiculous. I mean, we were just enjoying the absurdity of it. And
Oh yeah, was it so stressful, or were you just?
It was, because I put pressure on myself, and I would actually get stressed out about it. And then we would have people that would prank call us. So I had this phone system on the desk, and you could just call it, and it would ring, and I'd hit answer, and so we had like, you know, people trolling us basically. I remember getting Rickrolled for the first time. You know, that's like, and it was like, oh, I've kind of felt like, hey, I don't know if I'd ever heard of Rickrolling before I got Rickrolled. You know,
yeah.
And
It's cool.
and it became kind of like a little bit of a game, you know, like where there was a switch that I'd built with Bill Snitzer was his name. He worked there, and Victor, a couple of the guys that worked there. And we built the switch under the desk. It was like metal, and it was like we got a metal box with a switch, and we had wires, and we soldered them together, and then the wires ran out to the computer, and then Bill was able to program the computer so that when like I flipped that switch, it would, like if everything was off, it's the middle of the night in my house, it's quiet night, nobody there, and if I were to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning by myself and put clown makeup on, which I often did, and a top hat, and walk out into my living room and flick the switch would turn on the lights, would turn on the cameras, would turn on the computers. This computer would tell this computer to start recording. The phone system would turn on. It would send it to the front page of my website. Just one switch. I haven't done anything. All I've done is put on some clown makeup and flipped a switch, right? You don't have to put on the clown makeup, but I did do that often.
Oh yeah, you better.
It was called the French Clown of Midnight. I'd speak it in French in clown makeup. And you wonder why it didn't work out. But then the phone would start ringing, and I'd just be doing the show. I'd have a switcher on the desk so I could switch the cameras, and I would just start taking calls. And it was really the only live video on the internet, like really, like there was no Instagram Live or anything. So it was like, You imagine when I was a kid, I wanted to do I like prank calling the radio station.
Oh,
I'd like to call into the radio station, and I would call into the radio station and I'd record it, and then I'd call into the radio station and I'd pretend I was like my friend's father, and I'd call in, I'd start complaining about my son, and I'd use his name, and then I'd play the tape back to him, and it was hilarious to me, you know. And so I loved that, like pranking a radio station, and I kind of started to realize, like, we're the only live show on the internet right now with a phone with no call screener. All these people like me around the world could now call in and prank me, you know? And so we kind of got into this little sort of war, basically, you know, which was fun because I would get angry about it, but then also I kind of didn't have to turn the phone on,
right.
You know. So it was really fun, and you know, I got to meet a lot of great people. You know, I mean, that's where I really got to hang out with, you know, Joe Rogan for the first time, really, and Norm, who I became really close with, and so many other people, and you know, it was amazing. So it's weird. Like I find myself sometimes now talking about 2005 like it was like 50 years ago or something like that. But it really is, things have changed so much in the last 20 years with social media that it does really feel like kind of a different world. Like I remember Norm would come up, and you know, the first time he came up, I just couldn't believe I was going to hang out with him, you know, and hang out with him for 2 hours on camera, sort of in some ways kind of doing a make-believe talk show, even though there were people watching. It was kind of like, you know, experimental talk show, and he was getting into that. And then the show would end, and we'd go, you know, on YouTube and go look at videos. And it was like, I remember it was like YouTube was so new that it was just the strangest thing. I'd be sitting with Norm Macdonald after doing this for 2 hours, and we were sitting there watching, you know, crazy clips that he would find, you know, like baby versus cobra, you know, like with the cobra's mouth sewed together.
Those
like,
are good,
Grape Lady Falls. I remember watching these videos with Norm and just dying of laughter, you know, in the middle of the night, and just thinking, this is cool.